Hey guys, today we're going to be training a LoRA locally on our computer using the program Flux Gym. A LoRA is a file that you can use in image generation programs such as ComfyUI to generate images of a specific character or images in a specific style and make this style or character be consistent across all of your generated images. You can use a LoRA, for example, to generate photos of yourself using AI, or create an AI influencer, or maybe just copy a specific art style and generate new images in it. Before we begin, there are some requirements you need to have. First, you need to have an NVIDIA video card, and it should be quite beefy. You'll need to have at the very least 12 GB of VRAM. You will also need to install an image generation program like ComfyUI, so that you will be able to actually generate images using the LoRA. And lastly, the dataset, which is the most important requirement for LoRA training. To properly train a LoRA, you will need to have a bunch of high quality reference images, and there are some rules you must follow. In this case, we will be training a LoRA of a realistic character, and the rules for a character dataset is: first, you will need to use around 15 to 40 images. The images must be diverse, but the subject always must be the same person. You should have photos taken in different environments, from different angles, with the subject wearing different clothes and striking different poses, having different facial expressions, etc. And you must make sure there's no other people in the image. Lastly, make sure the images aren't blurry, and all of your images must be in a resolution of at least 1024 by 1024. Now we can begin installing Flux Gym. We will install it using the platform Pinocchio. So what you have to do is first go to this link that I will link in the description, then go to the releases section here, click on this, then click on the file for your operating system. So if you're on Windows, click on this Win32 zip here and download it. Now open the archive you've downloaded, press the setup here. Now Pinocchio is installed, and we can now proceed to install Flux Gym. So first, press this Visit Discover Page button here. Now you will see a list of apps that you can install, and you can search for Flux Gym. Now you can see it right here, click on it, and press one-click install. Press the download button, and press install again. Now you will have to wait for a while until it installs. It could take maybe 10 or 15 minutes or so. After installing, Flux Gym should be open and you should see the screen. Now we can use the program. First, we're going to upload our dataset, so simply click this button here, navigate to the folder with your images, and select them all and upload. Now we can use AI captioning to caption or describe our images via Florence. You do this by pressing the Add AI Captions button here. Now wait a bit. Now it is possible that you will have this error here when trying to caption images. I have this error, and I've tried to fix it for a long time, but to no avail. I was not able to fix this. Now of course there are other methods you can use to caption images. One thing you could do is have Florence running in ComfyUI and caption images there. But what I'm going to do is use the CivitAI trainer for captioning. If you're only using CivitAI for the captioning and you don't intend to actually train a LoRA with it, it's actually free, you don't have to pay anything. Let me show you how to do it. Simply go to CivitAI and here in this create section, open this drop down, press train a LoRA. In this video we're training a character LoRA, so I'm gonna click character. The name doesn't matter because we're not actually gonna train it, we're only gonna caption. Agree to this. Now upload your images here. Now our images are uploaded. We have to choose between captioning with tags or captions. Flux Gym only supports Flux-based models, and they require images to be using captions rather than tags, so we'll choose caption. Now press the auto label button, make sure caption is selected here, and press submit. And now you have to wait for the auto labeling to finish. Now you can see the auto labeling is running, and you can see some of the images have already been captioned. Unfortunately, this means also that we'll have to copy these captions from each of the images here into Flux Gym, which is very annoying. Hopefully Florence 2 works for you in Flux Gym, so that you will not have this problem. So I'm just gonna copy all of these captions now. So once you've copied a caption from CivitAI, go back to Flux Gym. You might have to restart it and re-upload your images. But then you should be able to see these caption fields here where you can paste your captions, and just do that for all of the images. Generally, the captions from CivitAI will be very good, but there are a couple of very small issues. First of all, it failed to caption one of the images, which is this one here. For this, I'm just going to re-upload this image and caption it. So press the reset button, confirm, then put only that image there, and auto-label it again. Now I fixed this one image, it is captioned now, so I can paste it here along with the other images. There is another slight problem with the CivitAI captioning. Some images might have their last sentence unfinished, like with this one here. The woman's relaxed pose with one hand resting on a metal railing suggests she is waiting or casually, and then there's nothing here. So that's because of the max tokens parameter, which you can find here when you press the auto label button. So here I have it to 80 right now. By default it should be 100. So if the description reaches the max tokens, I guess it just cuts off sometimes. You can just manually fix this by removing the unfinished part of the sentence. like this. And just check all of your images that their captions are correct. Once you're done with the captioning, we can now move on to the LoRA parameters or LoRA info here. First, you have to give your LoRA a name. This can be anything you want. I'll make my own. Then you have to use a trigger word or sentence. So for ComfyUI, the trigger word is not strictly necessary, but we're gonna put it here anyway. The trigger word is a word or sentence that we will train our LoRA with and then put inside the prompt of our image generator, in this case ComfyUI. This will activate the LoRA and cause it to actually have an effect on the generated images. Without the trigger word, the LoRA isn't gonna work. Now it is recommended that you use some kind of uncommon word here. You can see some examples in this field here. I'm gonna use a word that is similar to the name. You should use a word that is not some existing common word, so that you don't confuse the image generator. After you typed in the trigger word or sentence, select the base model. I recommend you use Flux Dev. We could also add a Flux-based checkpoint here, but usually this is not recommended. Just keep it at Flux Dev. Then select your VRAM, so I have 12 GB, so I'll select that. Next we have the repeats, epochs and steps. The steps field is calculated. You cannot edit it by yourself. The total steps number is equal to the number of images in your dataset, multiplied by repeats, multiplied by epochs. For the repeats field, it simply depends on the amount of images you have. The number of repeats basically equals the amount of times that the program will study each of your images in your dataset, and generally the more images you have, the fewer repeats you can use. As for the epochs, when the program finishes studying your dataset, it generates the LoRA file that you use in your image generation program to generate images. The number of epochs is simply the amount of times that Flux Gym studies your dataset, and the amount of sessions completed or the amount of files that it generates. The reason why you want to use more than one epoch is because with each epoch the result is actually different. Generally the second epoch will actually be better than the first, and the third one better than the second, etc. Because the first epochs are still considered undertrained. However, this doesn't mean that the last epoch is the best one, because at some point the results can also become overtrained or fried. Therefore, you will need to find a sweet spot, which means you will have to test each of your epochs. So for example, if your number of epochs is 10, it might be that the 6th or 8th epoch is the one that works best. In this case, I will put 5 as the epoch number, but generally a higher number like 10 to 16 is used. And for the repeats, I will leave it at 10. There's no harm in using as many epochs as possible, but it will significantly increase the number of steps and therefore the number of time it takes Flux Gym to finish training. Next we have two parameters for generating sample images. The sample images are images that the program will generate during its training process. This will allow you to see the evolution of your training and is extremely useful for choosing the best epoch to use for generating images. The sample image prompts is where you put prompts for generating sample images. You can use multiple prompts, and you must also include a trigger word in the prompt. Here I have some examples that I wrote. As you can see, there is some description, and the trigger word is always used, and the prompts are separated by a new line. Next is the sample image every n steps parameter. This does what it says. Every n steps it will generate sample images, and it will be generating one image per prompt. So 3 images every n steps. And as you can see right now we have 1250 steps. So if we put here 125 for example, then it will generate these images 10 times during the training process. And you will be able to see how the sample images evolve or change, and it will help you see which epoch has generated the best images. Lastly is the resize dataset images. Here I recommend setting it to 1024, and now if you scroll down, there are also a lot of advanced options that you can use, but I will not be going over those. As you can see, there is a ton of them, but what we have is enough. After you're done filling out all of these parameters and the images and the captions, you can start training your LoRA, so you can press the start training button here. Now you see this message here, downloading base model. You can also press this terminal button here to see what's going on right now. Now we finished downloading the files, now it will actually start generating. Once your training finishes, go to your Pinocchio folder, open API, fluxgym.git, outputs, and then the name of your LoRA, and you should see the saved tensors files here. So now we're going to use them in ComfyUI. So copy all of these files, go to your ComfyUI folder in documents, open models, LoRa's, and paste it there. Now open up ComfyUI. I already have a workflow here where I'm using the real dream checkpoint that I downloaded from CivitAI. You can only use Flux-based checkpoints or LoRa's trained with Flux Gym, and you will need to add a LoRa loader node in order to be able to use the LoRa. So open up nodes here, then type load LoRa. Take this node and drag it here. Now select the name of your LoRa. As you can see, I have 5 epochs here, 5 save tensors files. I will choose the 4th one, for example. I'll keep strength model and strength clip at 1. Strength model will affect how much the LoRa influences your output image. So if you put 1 here, it means that the image will be as close to the LoRa as possible. Now what we want to do is go to this load checkpoint node. And these connections that go from model and clip, we have to delete those. Now drag a connection from the model output here to the model input in the LoRa loader. And from the load LoRa output, drag the model connection to the K-sampler model input. Then from the load checkpoint, drag the clip output to the clip input of the load LoRA, and drag a connection from your clip output to both of your text encode nodes, like this and like this. Then type in the prompt for your image. So I've used this prompt here. You can see I'm actually not using the trigger word. Like I mentioned before, it's not strictly necessary with ComfyUI because we're using the load LoRA node, and because we're connecting it, it already knows to use the LoRA, so you don't need to bother with the trigger words. Now I will try to generate an image. Now the image has finished generating. You can see it's not perfect, there is only a little bit of resemblance to the original images. This can be improved in multiple ways. First, it's very much possible that my dataset wasn't good enough, and it would also help if I used a larger amount of repeats in the Flux Gym parameters, or the specific epoch that I used wasn't good enough. So you will need to experiment a lot with this, and if you want good results, you will need to spend a lot of time tweaking different parameters, generating a lot of images, etc. But these are the basics of it. That was all for today. I hope it helps, and I hope that you've successfully been able to train a LoRA locally on your computer. For now I'm out, and I'll see you in the next one.